Hello, it's Susan Crutchfield with the Noonan Carnegie Library, and I'm here with more book recommendations for you. Today we're going to be talking about general fiction books, so I'm going to go through this stack and let you know just a little bit about each book. We'll have them on a special shelf for you here at the Carnegie if you want to come in and check them out. So let's get started. We're going to start off with Normal People by Sally Rooney. Some people might consider this a romance, but I consider it more of a general fiction book. It basically tracks two people through their relationships with each other, with other people, their friends, and all sorts of people in their lives. And this book is really beautifully written. It's written by an Irish author, and just the words she uses and the language she uses is just really beautiful. There's also a Hulu series of this that's really good. So I suggest you check both of these out. And then next we have Fates and Furies by Groff. This is a story of a marriage, and it kind of follows them through them meeting one another, falling in love, and it talks a lot about how two people in a marriage can look really great from the outside, but the inner life might not be so great. So this is a really interesting commentary on marriage, and I love this cover. You know, I got to talk about it. But this was a really good one. I enjoyed that. And then the next one is The Sleepwalkers Guide to Dancing. It kind of follows a family through different countries, through different generations. And I found this one to be really beautifully written as well. It was just very evocative and gorgeously written. And the story just captured me from the first page. So I really enjoyed this one. It was really hard to put it down. So next we have Crazy Rich Asians. This is another one that some people might consider a romance, but I really don't. I loved this book. There's also a movie that came out last year or the year before that is also beautiful and colorful. But this book was so good. It's hilarious. It's about a girl who meets someone at college, falls in love with him, and he asks her to come back and meet his family in Singapore. So she does, and then she gets there and realizes that he is super duper rich. So it's a very opulent book. It deals with a lot of social commentary, but it was just so good. And there's a whole series. I loved every book in the series. I enjoyed it so much. So definitely check this one out. And then next we have Little Fires Everywhere by Celeste Ng. I really enjoyed this book. There is a little bit of a mystery in here, but the mystery really isn't the central part to it. So I decided to include this in general fiction. It's really a story about how two families meet each other and how their lives intersect, and they have a little bit of problems because they start disagreeing on some things. I don't want to say more about it because I don't want to ruin it, but this book is excellent. There's also a Hulu series on this one. I haven't watched it yet, but I've heard that it's really good. But I enjoyed this book. I give it 5 stars. Next up, we have The Light We Lost by Jill Santopolo. This book could also kind of be considered a romance, but I wanted to put it in general fiction as well. But this book was another one that kind of follows a couple through a couple of years in their relationship and what happens to them. And this is another one that's just beautifully written. It's so gorgeous. The language that the author uses is just mesmerizing. So I really loved this one. And next we have Lone Wolf by Jodi Picoult. I don't know if you've read any of Jodi's books, but most of them are really good. I always enjoy them. And this is another story of a family and how a family has been torn apart and how they have to come back together because of a tragedy. You might see that as a thread running through a lot of books I suggest, but I always find that to be so interesting to see how people can come back together and the drama and the problems that they have to face together all of a sudden. So this one was really great. Next one I want to talk about is Eligible by Curtis Sittenfeld. I love Curtis's books. They're so enjoyable, and this one was no different. This is a retelling, a modern day retelling of Pride and Prejudice. Now, Pride and Prejudice is my #1 favorite book of all time by Jane Austen. It's such a good book, and I love it. So I really read every Pride and Prejudice retelling that I can. Some of them I love, some of them I don't. This one I loved. It's really funny. It's just a modern day Jane, Bingley, Darcy, all of them are here, but in a modern day form, and it's hilarious. It made me laugh so hard, so I highly suggest this one. And I recommend any of Curtis Sittenfeld books. They're really good. Next up, we have The Storied Life of A.J. Fikri by Gabrielle Zevin. This book was great. It was about a bookstore, and I love books about libraries and bookstores. I always find them to be so good. This is about a guy who owns a bookstore, AJ Fikri, and he's having a little bit of problems with it. There's a cute little town with all sorts of interesting characters. It's on a little island, so you have to have a ferry to go over there. And AJ is a little bit of a grump, but I kind of really enjoyed his character. So this is just about how he's trying to save his bookstore and this town he lives in. And it's such a charming book, and I really enjoyed it. And next up, we have An Absolutely Remarkable Thing by Hank Green. This book was really charming. It's about a girl who is out with one of her best friends, and she sees this strange thing in the city, and she's like, what is that? It looks like a transformer. And so she does a video of it, and it goes viral. So this is all about her going viral and the path that it leads her down. So this one was really fascinating. I enjoyed it. Maybe it has a little bit of a mystery too. All right, next let's talk about All This Could Be Yours by Jamie Attenberg. Here's another story of a family who has to come together because of a tragedy. The patriarch of the family is dying, and most of the siblings come together and come to sit with him and comfort their mother, but they really don't know who their father is, and they really want to know the secrets that he's been keeping for so many years. So this is kind of them trying to come to terms with losing their father, who they don't have the greatest relationship with, and trying to find out what's in his past. So this was a really good book, and I loved it so much. I love Jamie Attenberg's work, and I thought this one was really good. Last up, let's talk about Beartown by Frederick Backman. Frederick Backman's books are so good. He wrote A Man Called Ove, which is a super popular book, and I also suggest you read that. But Beartown was really good. It starts out in a small town, and it's a dark, cold town, and hockey is huge. So you think it's a story about hockey for like the first 20-30% of it, and then it takes a sudden turn and changes into something else. I highly recommend this book and its sequel. They're really moving books. It's a story that is pretty serious. It starts out, you know, with just the hockey and then suddenly takes that turn, and it's really serious. I guess it could kind of be considered a mystery, but I just put this one in general fiction. But this one was so good, I gave it 5 stars. It was such a great book. But does have some sad content, just to be warned. But anyway, this is my general fiction stack. I really love all these books, and I hope you get a chance to check them out. And if you do, let us know what you think about it, and we look forward to seeing you soon.